Welcome to Star-Powered Astrology for Changemakers. I'm Leslie Tagorda, your guide, a Hawaii-born Filipino-Jewish astrologer who loves navigating visionaries like you through the spiritual journey of your work so that you can be inspired to lead by your chart and become the luminary leader you were born to be. Welcome, Luminary. I'm so excited to bring the wonderful and the magnificent Arrameia Auraire Araiss. She is a light code activatrix, and we're going to talk about exactly what that is, a master energy healer, a beautiful recording artist, a musician, a best-selling co-author, and a transformational speaker. And she works with Starseeds. You've probably been called to be a Starseed, and reconnects them to their galactic essence through light code activation. Welcome, Arrameia.
Thank you. What a wonderful introduction. Well, Leslie has done my entire brand book and read my entire chart, so she knows specifically what I'm doing and articulates it in the most beautiful way. So thank you for having me.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So we've worked really tenaciously to bring this podcast together. Arrameia is all over the world, traveling as like a global rock star and healer. And we got to work together earlier this year to go through your chart so that you could really speak to this transformative energetic healing that you do. Before we met, what were like you came because you were like having a little bit of issue trying to describe what you were doing, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm very multidimensional, multifaceted, and I just wanted to get my personal brand together and really communicate it in a way that people can understand. So that was the main reason. There's many deep reasons, but I could be talking about that for a while, and I don't want to get sidetracked too much here.
No problem. I just remember like during our sessions, like how powerful they were. I knew that when we first met together, like there are certain clients that I get to work with that when I meet them for the first time, I just feel this intense boom. Like I can feel your energy. And sometimes it's a little bit it's not scary, but it's like you're working with this precious tool. You know that you're working with something that's very powerful, very delicate, very magnificent, that you have to then show up in your fullest power. And then that's where like just this deepest magic happen. And I remember just during our calls, I really felt that transmission of energy going both ways. But you had some really powerful experiences that brought you into this world of light code and healing energetics. Can we start maybe at the beginning and like go back to basics of like what is light code healing and what is a star seed?
Hmm. So, light codes are everywhere. Well, everything is light and everything has a geometry inside of it. So essentially, we're operating on different geometric codes and light codes that include a certain information. And so what I do is light code is kind of like a very fancy schmancy way of saying it. And it's a beautiful term, but obviously in more like normal terms of what we're used to using is it's working with I do a lot of work with subconscious mind, and subconscious mind works a little bit like a computer, right? So we mostly operate from our subconscious mind, 90%, and 10% from our conscious mind. So that's why when we consciously wanting to change something in our life, and we like consciously, I really think and know that I'm successful, but if our subconscious mind is just playing on repeat like, oh, you always fail, like your parents said that you're never going to be nothing, never going to be anything, and that's constantly like playing there. Like my friend says, it's like a DJ that it's playing like one record from the Akashic records. It's like
Looping.
being like, and so no matter what we try to do on the outside, if this is not taken care of, we're always going to be stuck. And what's happening in the subconscious mind, we have certain programs, and some of them are from our ancestors, some of them are from group consciousness, from all kinds of places that might not even be ours, and we're still running them because they're a part of our DNA that we've inherited. And then there are some programs that are more like on a core level and soul level, and so that sometimes needs deeper work. but they're all like when you have outdated programs in your computer and it's just like running on an old operating system. So no matter how much you try, you're just not going to install the new cool thing when there's like an old operation system. So I'm working with those, like in terms of mindset shifts, like subconscious mindset shifts, and also working with downloading feelings and then like reconfiguring the entire energy field.
Oh.
In terms of healing work, I've studied theta healing for a very long time. I taught it as well. But even before that, I had a massive awakening. I mean, I had several awakenings. I came to this world remembering as a sort of 4 or 5 year old, knowing that I somehow came from another planet, that I was a light being before, and that somehow I'm supposed to activate DNA in people and just uplift the human race and liberate the human race, which felt like a lot, like a big job. So I just kept asking, like, how do I do that
Yeah,
and
how does a
stuff.
4-year-old understand that?
Well, it's just a concept. Like consciousness doesn't care whether like where it's incarnated or how old it is. So my consciousness was like fully woke, but I was like, oh, I'm in this like small body, and then I went for the first time. Like my parents kind of let me just like wander somewhere, and I remember just like going somewhere, and they were like these adults, and I was like, I was an adult already once, and I'm definitely like reincarnated, but I'm like really small. And I was like, okay, so source, like what's my purpose? I always had this like really strong connection with the source energy. And there I got that I'm here to liberate the human race. I was like, okay, so how do I do that? And then I came to my parents and I was trying to like ask them like, okay, so what's my purpose? Why I'm so small? And they were just not really giving me any answers that would be sufficient for me. So I kind of lost my respect back then. But I digress. And so if actually now we just moved into my life story a little bit. So then I went into a bit of a period of like checking out because there was a lot of trauma
Mhm.
in my family, and a lot of misunderstandings and a lot of violence. So I was like slowly sort of checking out, but also on a soul level, it felt like, well, I'm gonna be just like here, waiting here till I'm like 18 before I can even like leave this house and start actualizing any of the stuff that I came here to do. And that just felt like a massive waste of time. So I feel like and also I was put into like a normal school back then, and I was like telling my mom like I don't want these numbers. They give you this number, you know, like a birth number and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, they're gonna put me into the system. I'm just gonna waste so much time. And by the way, this is such a classic story, like Starseed thing, right? Because we
Yeah.
literally come here from other galaxies, other places, like Verntil souls, and this like school system and things happening here, it's like so backwards for us, you know. We're
Yeah.
like coming from the future to this place, which is like I'm gonna like sit there like learning history for 9 years, how like different people are just like killing each other, and the whole thing is just like the same thing over and over
Yeah.
and over again. And I'm like, well, you just can say the whole thing in one sentence. I don't need, I don't need to
Yeah.
sit here for 9 years. Like, what's the solution? But anyway, so I sort of started living like a little bit of like a more normal life, and I feel like a huge part of my soul checked out.
Mhm.
And then I went through like certain human experiences. I was also trying to end it through hard drugs, which is
Yeah.
also quite prevalent to a lot of starseeds who are very sensitive. So I had these issues that I was very sensitive and I could not quite I was not fitting in. Nobody understood me on the deep level that I
Yeah.
needed. And I was just kind of wanting to end it. Like I started to feel suicidal from about 6 years old.
Mhm.
And so I was doing hard drugs and all kinds of different drugs, which kind of were doing two things. Like one thing, it was kind of bringing me a little bit closer to home,
Yeah.
you know, like when you're on LSDs and all kinds of things, it kind of opens your consciousness and it helps you kind of like leave this dimension a little bit. So
Mhm.
that was a certain relief, and also it was like a certain way of like eventually that can lead to a suicide and it will be end. But then some angels came in and there was some divine intervention and it just like shook me up out of it. And then I was studying classical flute. I've got a Gemini midheaven. I'm in Taurus Gemini, so I've changed careers so many times.
Yeah.
And
It's
then
all good.
yeah, and then I went to do music, and I moved to from Czech Republic, where I grew up, to London to study music, and I started doing my own singing and my own work. Where the first time I kind of started the branding is like I'm from space. It was
Yeah.
called Space Pop, and but at that time, which links to the classical starseed hiding problem. I was like, I knew that the core of the brand was that I'm from space because that was my deepest truth.
Yeah.
And so I had these like space costumes and LED lights on me, and like I was doing all the songs about universe and stuff. Um, and now I just completely lost where I was going with that because it was about the hiding. And then it went into my, okay, so I was doing the stuff in the music industry, but when I was getting bigger with it, I had this issue that I could not tell anybody that I'm a light worker
Mm.
or a star seed. So it was like I
Hiding
was trying.
that woo woo part of yourself.
Yeah. But I could not integrate it with what I was doing on the outside, like in my sort of career mission. So I had
Yeah.
this idea that I have to be like a big pop star in the traditional sense, and then when I get there, from there, I'm gonna be like awakening beings from the matrix. But as I was progressing through that, I was getting lost into the matrix more and more myself. So I was
Yeah.
like, well, there must be more than this. And that I started to feel that pull that I actually need to do my real work, like my real mission as a Starseed light worker. And I had a massive awakening 2015 where all of those like other like masks and ego things just that all collapsed.
Hmm.
And it's almost as if the part of me that was totally awake and online when I was 4 or 5 years old just fully came into my body in such a strength that it just like shattered all of the other stuff, and I just started my life like brand new.
Yeah.
And that's where all my gifts activated. So as I was talking about the theta healing training, I actually everything got activated because of this. I also had some sessions about DNA activation, and I just started to see, fields and dimensions. And when somebody was talking, I could see the light codes coming out of their mouth, and I could see how that's tangling in the entire like hologram, and I could see how things, it felt like everything is just a real illusion, so as if you could like walk through the walls or stuff like that. And I could see, who is in the third dimension, who is in the fourth, fifth, and I could see who is a star seed, who's awakened, who is not. And like it was just like these layers of stuff. And then when I went to the first course of theta healing work, I was just like, when I was supposed to scan somebody, I was like, whoa, I just feel like I've been doing this for thousands of years. And I had guides with me, helping me and doing
Yeah.
these Starseed activations. Developed like my own way of working with it, the way I use my psychic gifts. And I'm very good at like sort of psychic surgery in a way that like really like operating people,
Yeah.
like within one session being able to collapse a lot of things and really look deeply into where it's all holding, and then working on like bringing the soul back in and bringing the remembering back in. Because for star seeds, when certain correct things are activated, it really accelerates the way they can clear stuff.
I
Yeah.
wanted to thank you so much for like kind of sharing that your life story, because it's really important when we think about just like the human experience and whether somebody can recognize themselves as a star seed or maybe a wounded healer. I'm in astrology, so I'm working with wounded healers and wounded leaders, that kind of Chiron archetype. But it makes so much sense that you had this clear recognition when you were a pure young child, that but couldn't quite comprehend yet because you didn't have any guides. And then you had to go through this like really long dark night of the soul through elementary and young adulthood, where your body is getting conditioned to the human experience, specifically so that your star seed soul could understand just the trauma and the challenges that the human condition goes through, so that you can then come out, recognize it, heal it because you healed it within yourself, awoken it in yourself, and then offer it now to others. Like, I think it's like, it's your story is so beautiful, and it is like quite the heroine's journey of like the ups and the downs and the coming back to realization and coming to your power. Because if you hadn't gone through any of those conditionings, those tough dark places, you wouldn't have fine-tuned your light code activating and your ability to like hear when people are speaking within their geometry or are like just out of tune and like working against their own vibrations.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I almost feel like I had enough of those challenges. I'm just happy now to just just have a happy life, you know. I feel like in
Yeah.
my entire incarnation, like so much has happened already. It's just
So
been crazy.
so if we go back to like some of the astrology of things, right? How so you kind of you recognize a little bit about you being a star seed. And can you give us a little bit more of like how are like are there other star seeds on this planet and where do they come from?
There is millions of starseeds on this planet by now. Like there's different theories that even like half of the human race might be starseeds by now. So I have my own interpretations about what is a star seed and how can you tell and what types, just based on, you know, the thousands of people I worked with
Yeah.
and who usually comes to me, which is like a specific thing in my chart. Um, they're usually like so-called earth guardians and really strong volunteer souls. And that means this is actually a theory backed by Dolores Cannon, who did like quantum hypnosis on a lot of beings, and they were all reporting the same event. That at
Mhm.
some point there was a call in the universe that Earth is struggling because there's been this dark cloud, like certain occupation of certain dark beings that are on the planet still to this day. They're
Mhm.
creating a certain vibrational grid, and there's a certain mind control that's linked to
Yeah.
all of that. So I always focus on like, let's reconnect to the source of all that is, and let's reconnect your soul, and let's use your specific facets to your best of abilities. And you know, if there's some galactic drama that you need to be disconnected from, let's do that. But let's just focus on, you know, what you're here to do and how can we make it the strongest. And in terms of, so this call to help shift the planet
Mhm.
was, you know, called to certain beings in the Galactic Federation. And if somebody's like the super into Starseed stuff, they're going to tell me the Galactic Federation is all hacked. That's why I'm like saying there's like so much information about all of this where
Yes.
it's just really easy to get lost. So that's why I said about the, you know, the seventh plane and the fifth plane. So but let's say there's this theory that there was a call, like Earth is struggling, and there's this invasion, there's this energetic grid that it's very hard to permeate, there's slavery, there's very dark things happening here, and beings are being used because a certain experiment just kind of went sideways, and certain beings that just interfered, and it's been like that ever since. So there was this idea that the best way how to shift Earth is to actually infiltrate and incarnate. And so
Mhm.
there was a call to very advanced beings who've already been on different missions and who have different skills. They'll be able to deal with the veil of forgetfulness and will be able to sustain their vibration or like remember at a certain point who they are if they do incarnate on Earth.
Yeah.
And so
I Yeah, I
there's
feel like there's a recognition, right, with just like the types of clients that we both work with. It's like there's this idea of where they just can't work in like kind of normal conditions, like they have to work on their own. Maybe they're not recognized for their gifts, or they have to like come back to understanding the value of their gifts because it wasn't recognized by like your traditional aspects. And so maybe that's what you're talking about with like the volunteer souls, that we like most likely the people that we're talking about that love the stars, that love astrology, that love spirituality have some kind of connection, that they have maybe some like galactic ancestry within them, would you say?
yeah, I think that we all are star seeds on some level on this planet. It's kind of impossible because we're like part of the greater universe, right?
I love
But
that.
there is a huge difference between, like, so what I'm talking about is that like full on like hardcore starseed is actually coming from the future to change the course of humanity, and those are starseeds that usually come to my containers. And there are these volunteer souls who said, yes, I'm going to come to Earth to help shift the vibration. And so they incarnate into physical bodies. Sometimes they incarnate from the start, sometimes they incarnate as a walk-in, because the vibration, and that's the main issue of star seeds, is that the vibration they're coming in with to planet Earth is totally not in sync with what they're getting into. So
Hmm.
there comes like a certain split where like is an issue to like fully incarnate, because it's like you can't put like just a different frequency.
Yeah, I feel
So
like
that's,
it's like if an orchestra is playing in the key of C, and then like the people on Earth are playing in the key of like E flat, and they're trying
yeah,
to like come together, and there's certain things that are going to mesh, but other things are going to be completely like off kilter.
yeah, exactly. So that's why I have memories only when like 4 or 5, because I believe I actually wasn't there, like my soul wasn't fully there when the vessel was in my mother's womb and stuff, because there was also other things happening, and it's just very small. It just wasn't. It also depends like how the mother is actually able to host the soul when she's pregnant, and if she's not able to do that, then just it doesn't, the connection just can't really happen. And then you're dealing with the fact that every star seed goes through this veil of forgetfulness. That's why you have so many people who just think they're like normal, living their normal life, but they're just like can't like work in corporate, they can't be in a normal society, they feel depressed. Even if they're successful and everything, they feel misunderstood, they feel depressed, they feel like they're kind of out of place.
Yeah.
And then at some point I had it in so many of my courses, like when I was I have a big Starseed course that I'm it's actually in Czech language. I might teach it at some point international, but a lot of Starseeds came through that and just feeling like they're kind of drawn to it, but not really thinking they're that much of a Starseed. And they go through the first module and they're like bawling their eyes out. They're like, I remember what happened on Lyra, and I remember this, I remember this. Like, oh my God. So yeah, so it's almost, and everyone has it like a little bit differently, but we carry a certain starseed DNA, and it's almost like some of us have almost like sort of double light bodies, like that's in my case, for example, where it's like you have to go for like a really strong integration to be able to have both of those systems running in the same time.
Mhm.
So before we started the interview, like you were telling me like, oh, just be you, you can just like do whatever, but I thought you're going to be asking me different questions, and then you asked me, then you said we're going to talk about star seeds. I was like, let me reconfigure, because I would then make my starseed light body and the DNA like more prevalent than my normal self, which I would be dealing like when I go to a meeting about automation funnels.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go there like with all of my super galactic DNA like and light bodies like active, right? So we can shift into those different various things, and so then it becomes about the starseed activation, as I understand it, as I've seen so many beings go through, is only possible fully when you've cleared enough of the trauma and enough of the low density in your physical self and your physical DNA and the human part.
Mhm.
Because otherwise it's like when you're trying to install a system and there's like a new software and there's like a bug in your computer, it's just not gonna
Can't
start,
run. It's too
can
heavy.
run. And sometimes it can even create like issues, because then the information that is supposed to be pure and clear and like fully like blossom and expand can get tangled in some like other codes that are not conducive to it, and it can sort of create, so it requires a certain um, type of healing to be able to like clear that vessel, so you can
Yeah.
really like bring in that starseed self and activate. And then it's about making the human DNA and the starseed DNA need to become friends, right? They need to work in harmony, because that's also issues with some starseeds, and they can even get ill from this when they have activated their galactic DNA
Yeah.
and they have not fully sorted like the cohesion, and it's just creating like this weird friction. And then just I had starseeds coming to me with so many weird problems that it's just, when you don't understand this type of work, it's very like hard to
Like,
fix it.
what's an example of a obscure problem that you've recognized in your clients?
Just like a simple one. I remember like there was this girl, she was a healer, and we were already doing quite like high level like healing curriculums, and she just could not scan people. And before she was supposed to like scan people, she just like felt like really sick, and she thought like she has all kinds of issues. And she came to me, and I just scanned her. I'm like, you just have like this weird allergy for humans. You just are scared that you're gonna like scan the human body, like something's gonna happen to you. And we just cleared it, and ever since it was fine, and it was like a 5-minute job. So it's like weird things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, what's super interesting, I know when we were kind of like looking at your natal chart and kind of talking about like how you're doing this process and like really giving it clear words for like our human conditioning to understand. You have that beautiful Leo rising with your sun in Gemini, like close to your Taurus midheaven. I thought that was always so beautiful with that Taurus midheaven and Chiron right there is just like the voice, like using beautiful sounds and frequencies and broadcasting that out in all your brilliance. And then your moon in the first house still with that Virgo energy. It's interesting, right, that you have this Taurus and Virgo that are so big in your chart because those are earth energies, but you're really healing like the physical body and all of the energetic bodies, even if the physical body, according to like kind of this like light code active, like light code work is really just that vessel that you talk about, that kind of grid, the holograph, like that those bodies can get really stuck with like a lot of like clutter and gunk that you're able to really precisely eradicate and just like dissolve it from both the physical and the energetic bodies through the work that you do. I think it's really like amazing how it shows up in your chart.
Yeah, it was really amazing when you told me that because I realized that the most successful courses that I've been teaching in Czech Republic, just so you guys understand that I've started a company about
Yeah,
3 years ago. I was just like called to my home country and I did this entire curriculum for Starseeds that is in Czech. And now I'm rebuilding some of that in international, but I feel like I'm going to focus more on like distributing my voice and light codes like in a
yeah,
in it like to higher levels of people rather than just teaching smaller groups. But through that I discovered like my body of work, and the most successful courses that I have is the star being on earth and then divine abundance, and they're basically both about, as you said when we were doing my chart stuff, is it safe to be in the body and bringing light into the body? And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what it is, because even though it's like, that might sound like if I do some health, I don't do like health stuff, I'm not
no,
like a
no,
health,
yeah,
but it's more like, is your soul in your body? Like, are you embodied? And is your brilliance embodied? Is your abundance embodied? Because all of that, and that's a huge issue of star seeds, where they have this problem, like feeling like they live a double life.
yeah, like they're denying the vessel, right? Like you're still on this earth, you got to like drive around the vessel
Yeah, but
to
it's
work for
because
you.
it's because of the vibrational distortion. So
Mm.
their starseed self, like, it's very active in the astral plane, and they feel like that, like when they're on their own or something, and then they're living the normal life when they're trying, like, being their kind of lower human self, and
Yeah.
it's not integrated. And for us who are as volunteer souls and who are here as light leaders, it's really important that we're fully in our power, and then we can fully shine and have all of our power and all of our talents available, so we can actually, through that embodiment, create the impact that we came here to make. And when we are disjointed, this will never happen. And that's why star seeds come to me at some point where they're like, I can't manifest any abundance in my life. I feel disconnected. I feel like I'm not on my path and all that. And that's all because of that fragmentation, that it's massive for star seeds.
Oh, I love that so much. Just like, of course, I'm looking at your chart with the Aquarius, the people that you're supposed to help here, like those Aquarius, that they just like feel like where do they belong? They're looking for that sense of belonging, right? And like, and I love that multifacetedness. Well, oh my goodness. So we were talking, I wanted to kind of arrange the recording of the publication of this podcast to be right around the alignment to the galactic center. In astrology, of course, we have our little solar system in this like one place in the Milky Way galaxy, as we call it. But of course, the Milky Way galaxy is only like one of millions of galaxies. And in the middle of our Milky Way galaxy, we have this beautiful black hole. And in astrology, we call that the galactic center. It moves a little bit every like couple of thousand years. It's currently around 27 degrees of Sagittarius in tropical astrology. And we'll be aligning to that right in the middle part of December, around peaking around December 18th. Do you ever get kind of do you ever feel certain kind of energies building at that time of year when we're aligned to that galactic center, or is that something like totally like out like out of bounds?
Well, I feel absolutely, but also I feel that because of the solar flares and because where we are in terms of our evolution, I feel like there's been shifts like every eclipse just been really strong and like
Yeah.
everything like it's just so heightened and so accelerated that there's like really no breaks. But in terms of the galactic center, I feel depending on where people have it in their chart, obviously everyone is affected differently, right? But for beings, I've noticed even in some of my students actually when I was asking them like where's the Sagittarius at some point, that of them those of them who had the galactic center in some prominent positions were actually really actualizing the new earth, really actualizing the galactic sort of futuristic society in a way that there is higher consciousness, and it would show up in those different areas based on where it was in their chart. So yeah, it's definitely a boost, and we're getting into this acceleration to that. And but I feel it's very much linked. It's not just like a one event. I feel that it's what happens during the Galactic Center activation is also linked to what happens in the Lions Gate and
Mhm.
Syrian Gate, and it's just like so many like points that we're constantly like these light opening points that are opportunities for us to jump on a higher timeline. And I feel this is also linked to I'm currently teaching this course called Radical Rebirth, which is very much linked to what's happening for a lot of volunteer souls right now who are in service and who are leaders, that they feel like the old system of how they were doing things is falling apart, and
Yeah.
there's going to be something new happening. And I feel that's linked to the Pluto ending its journey in Capricorn and moving to Sagittarius. And so I feel that every time we have the opening in the code, because it's almost like as if we are in this like holographic code, and there are times where it's locked, so we
Mhm.
can't really get information from like other galaxies and other civilizations. And then at some point there's openings where all of a sudden a certain light opens, and every time that happens is our opportunity just like to get the codes and spring to a higher spiral, like higher
Yes.
level of that spiral. And then so all these openings are really important. And so I sort of treat those astrological events as like little um, I don't know, like Christmas or like some special holidays or some
Yeah.
special things to integrate that.
For sure. Like, I think when we move into 2024, there is a giant acceleration. Yes, Pluto moving into Aquarius and saying goodbye to Capricorn. It's still gonna waver by the end of 2024. Aquarius, I mean, Pluto will say goodbye to Capricorn for the next 280 years or so. And then, but the meetup between Jupiter and Uranus next year is making everything go hyper fast. And, thinking going back to that quantum idea, from my understanding, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, it's like to be able to manage the quantum is to really be able to get clear of what we want, what our purpose is, what we desire, so that we can like send that message to the universe, and then the universe then shows us that way to get to that quantum next level. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And as you're talking about it, we're talking about the openings and astrology. Like I'm seeing this vision of like we're like a spaceship that is moving through the hologram, right? And our level of consciousness and our level of vibration determines like how we're gonna like on what timeline are we actually able to do it at, and how we're able to like utilize the portals, to what level we jump at. And so I feel it's so much about like, for example, what you do in your work, where you help people to get really specific about who they are. So because like a lot of time like we feel what it is, we
Hmm.
sort of know, but when someone articulates it, it's like, oh yeah, and now just get the consciousness, the conscious mind more, and
Yeah.
you can sort of more solidify that alignment. And then it's obviously a lot about shadow work and releasing resistance to what is. But ultimately I feel some of us who are already getting onto that higher spiral are not being tangled in the lower parts of the consciousness is really about being the instrument of the divine. So it goes beyond just like what am I manifesting and like getting really worked up about like being in this being in pushing and forcing and trying and controlling. It's still like a very limited perspective. And so when we remember who we are as galactic beings and what we know from other lives and parallel lives and other dimensions, it's really about how can we be the clearest instrument of the divine, and then we are manifesting in accordance with divine timings that are planetary, that are outer planetary, and it becomes like so much such an easier experience than when we're trying to do things from our ego, from our lower mind, and from that limited perspective.
Oh, that feels so good. I love this idea of being the instrument of the divine and really understanding your purpose that is not from like the shoulds, not from like the ego and what society, what you think society wants you to have, but from that really pure place from within. That sounds so beautiful. Um, Before we started, you mentioned that you wanted to maybe gift our listeners here a clearing or a
Yeah.
little
So,
tidbit of what you do?
mhm. So I was saying that if we did like a proper energy clearing, we would need to get beings into like a deeper meditation.
Mhm.
So what I could do is just like do like a mini one and do some downloads. So I'm just going to connect to beings who are watching and listening to this episode and who are also going to watch in the future. Okay. So, beautiful beings, just center yourself in your beautiful heart. Take a few deep breaths. Think about three things that you're grateful for and just watch how your heart field is expanding. And now imagine as if you like moved your eyes into, as if you were looking inside of your head to your pineal gland, like inwards. And that from that pineal gland, you're looking up through your crown chakra. And as you're looking up through your crown chakra, you see this beautiful, iridescent, bright ball of light that just feels so familiar, so loving, so beautiful. This is the source of all that is the highest intelligence that is powering everything, including you, that is part of you as well. And as you feel more and more comfortable with that ball of light, it's coming closer to you. And the more close it is, the more comfortable and relaxed you feel. And then it's slowly coming down into your entire body and your entire energy field, nurturing your cells, filling them in unconditional love, relaxing you and making you feel like home. And just be in that space for a few moments. And I'm just tuning into you, watching this and listening to this. And I'm just gonna ask Source to send you some downloads and change some beliefs. And if you want those, you just need to say, if you want them, yes out loud, because that activates your free will. So, can the Creator show you how it feels like to fully be enough and that be deserving of being connected with the source light and being fully in your power?
Yes.
Can we release the belief that in order to be safe in this world, you have to hide who you are? You have to sort of, yeah, just hide who you are and make yourself smaller and twist yourself somehow so nobody can really see you. And yeah, can we just release that?
Yes.
Can we release all the shock and trauma, all the times where you were persecuted or you went through some kind of a punishment for being in your light? Across time, space, all times, timelines, lifetimes, dimensions, ancestors.
Yes.
I'm going to source show you that this is now done and that it doesn't have to repeat anymore, that his lessons is finished, and now you're in a different time where these things are not happening anymore in that way how they were in the past. Can we release the belief that God or creator of all that is has failed you and has betrayed you? And can we show you how it feels like to be reconnected with source of all that is, and how does it feel to be fully accepted and fully protected and supported as you are doing your mission and shining your light and being your true self and enjoying life on this planet?
Yes.
Can we release the belief that as you shine your light and as your light is being visible, that everyone's going to take advantage of you and take your light? Can we clear that and show you how it feels like to be in control of your light and have strong boundaries and to have discernment, that you know when to, how to, who to show your light to, share your light with, and you know how to operate as a light being on this planet?
Yes.
And we're also going to reconnect you with your guides and guardian angels, beings of highest vibration who love you unconditionally, to protect you and guide you and help you with your healing and with your mission, and also reconnect you with other starseeds, your soul family, light workers, beings that are for the highest and best for you, that are around the planet, so you know that you're not here alone and that it's safe for you to collaborate and cooperate with other beings like this. Imagine as if there is roots going from your feet into the ground, and just imagine that all of these new codes and beliefs and vibrations are being sent to your earth chakra and rooted in the earth, grounded, and then breathe that energy back in through your body all the way to the top of your head. And just feel the new setting in your energy field. Just allowing to integrate. And perhaps it would be good if you listen to this again a few times, because we shifted a lot of things really quickly. So your all parts of yourself can integrate this and understand this. And it's good for you to drink some more water now, and also perhaps do some journaling about anything that has opened up that you might need to investigate further. And I thank you for allowing me to do this clearing for you and do this witnessing, and may you be eternally blessed.
Oh my goodness, Arrameia, thank you. That was so beautiful. The questions that you asked were like so specific and so precise to what I've heard so many of my clients and my community members, how they talk about their work and hiding and like conforming and contorting and twisting themselves to societal expectations, and especially the persecution. So much persecution. I know that one spoke deeply to me as well. um wow, thank you, Armia, what a gift.
You're welcome. Yeah, well, I'm happy to do some deeper clearings for your community if needed, because obviously, we would need at least like an hour to unpack some of these things.
That was
So
really
I was
a
like,
nano.
let's just do it super quick. But I like to do things well, and it's like if we just like, send a bunch of downloads, it's not really gonna do much. Like, you need to go a little deeper.
Oh my goodness, that was so beautiful. Well, how can the listeners find more about you and what do you have coming up? Tell us all the things because I definitely want people to find you and your work and hear your beautiful meditations and your music. So excited for all you have coming up.
Yeah, so my main offering, where I'm spending the most time in right now, is the One Awakening experience, which is a membership. And I'm doing monthly live calls there where I do these deep energy clearings. And it's usually on the topic of the month that's what's the most prevalent in the field, as that's also my like sort of biggest gift where I can tune into what is it now that needs to be shifted. And so that's happening there. There's also transformational energy clearings, meditations. There's my music, a whole album from dark to light that I haven't released yet. There's more other music in there. Also, we have some guests. I think that you're going to be one of them as well at some point. So that's a container where beautiful starseeds are meeting, and it's for trailblazers, visionary starseeds on this planet ready to rise up. And obviously, I'm most active on Instagram. So that's just Arrameia Auraire Araiss. And also I have a beautiful free meditation called Pure Essence on my website that beings can download for free. And that's very much like recorded from my highest galactic aspect. So even just like listening to that, like really it tunes your vibration to like new levels. So yeah.
I'll have all of those links for everyone on the notes page of this podcast, and I'll send those out with the email with this podcast as well. So Aramea at One Awakening Experience, that's her membership, and then Arrameia Auraire Araiss at on Instagram. And so I'll get those links for y'all because you definitely have to take part in some of this deep healing and reconfiguring, right? Just light code activating.
Yeah, just like a little thing. I'm just finishing a course called Radical Rebirth, which is like super deep call for course for Earth Guardians, where we're really working with like ending old timelines and shifting identity into the new, which is very much linked to the Capricorn Aquarius thing. And
Yeah.
like anywhere where you like feel like you're ready to up level, there's a deep process that we're going through. So that's like more in depth, so beings can join that as well.
Yeah, next year. I'm so excited about all the shifts coming next year. And it sounds like you are too. You're getting us all ready for it.
Absolutely.
Well, wonderful. Armea, is there anything else that you'd like to add before we sign off today? Just thank you so much for sharing all of you and your story.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Well, as I always say to my starseeds, beautiful beings, like it's just about realizing that your unique light matters, and that we didn't come here to adjust, to lower our vibration, to adjust what's happening here, but we have to bravely stand in who we are, in our full power, in our full authenticity, like what we came here to do, realizing that it might feel uncomfortable and might feel like we're different to a lot of people. But if we don't do that, we're always going to like feel like something is missing. There's going to be like a certain level of depression. So it's just about stepping out and being like, okay, I'm here to innovate, and it's going to ruffle some feathers, and I'm here to be different. And it's just, when you own your light, that's where all your power awakens. So it's just really important to know that your unique light matters.
Own your light, luminaries. Shine bright.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you again, Aramea. And I'll send the links again so that you can follow Aramea and grab her free meditation and learn more about the One Awakening experience. All right, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
As a human design projector, my energy shines more brightly because of people like you who share my work. If you enjoy this podcast and want to help build a movement of innovative astrology and leadership and spark the intuitive revolution, please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, or better yet, share this podcast with your change-making besties. We will all shine brighter together as we create the future we want to see.